Watch more programs like this on cable and stream with PCN Select. Subscribe at PCNTV.com.
Here in front of the Chambersburg Volunteer Fireman Museum, my name's Terry Schaefer. I'm president of the organization. We are housed in an old fire station that used to be the Cumberland Valley Hose Company from 1900 to 1975. We have a collection of historical firefighting apparatus and equipment. So come on inside and we'll show you around. Okay, the first two things you'll see here is the Gamewell System. It was installed in 1904, 1905 with 10 boxes. Eventually progressed to about 100 boxes throughout the town. It was taken out in 1989 due to repair of the boxes and the more usage of cell phones and things like that they didn't feel the boxes were needed. I'll open up a box here that you can see the mechanism inside. The different gears and that, how it operated. If you had a fire in your neighborhood, you would go to one of the boxes, the closest box, you would pull the lever down, send the alarm in, but then you would stay at that location, and when the firemen would arrive, you would direct them in to where the fire actually was. Like I said, there was about roughly 100 of them. And I'll demonstrate here what the bells would kind of sound like, as well as the ticker tape down here that would punch the number out with holes. All right, as you see here, this is one of the original alarm bells. The system I just demonstrated to you. The box would be pulled, the bell would ring. They'd look up there at the indicator to see where the box was located at and that. And then if they were upstairs, this is the pole that they would slide down. They would come down, they would look up to see what number box was pulled. And then later on in the 1950s, they would look over at the main board and you could see, like in this case, it'd be box 543. They knew it was at McKinley and Wallace and that. So they knew what general area to take the apparatus to.
I'm standing here in front of the Junior Hose and Truck Company engine. It's a 1936 Wardler France. It was the first one in Chambersburg that was yellow. Why we went to yellow, nobody knows. Everything then was red. Yellow stands out a little bit better. This engine was in service from 1936 to 1966 when they bought their other truck. It was sold to a collector in New York with the stipulation if he sold it, the juniors would get it back. And when it came back, it was in really bad shape. The volunteers and the paid guys at the headquarters station stripped it down to bare metal. We sent it out, had it brought back to its original shape and color.
Okay, the Chambersburg Fire Department is made up of 5 individual volunteer companies. One of them here that we'll show you down along the line is the Goodwill, number 3. It served the south end of town. It was formed in 1788 and that. Then we have the Cumberland Valley Hose Company, number 5. It was formed in 1788 also, and it served the north end of town. We have the Junior Hose and Truck Company, number 2. It was formed in 1872. It served more or less the central part of town, being located in the downtown area. We have the Friendships number 1 that was formed in 1780, and that it served the eastern part of Chambersburg. And the 5th one is the Franklin Fire Company number 4. We do not have a helmet or coat from that company, but it served the west end of Chambersburg and that. Then over here you can see the variations of fire helmets and civil defense helmets, some of them dating from the 1800s. You can see the progression of them. And then over here is the more modern helmets that we have. And that, so you can see how the styles have changed over the years. Some of the equipment you'll see here is an asbestos suit from the early 1970s that firemen would use to get closer to the fire if they had to rescue a victim in an auto accident or a burning building. Some of the other things we have here is a siren, some lights, and that from trucks in about the same stage as you've seen downstairs, the 40s and 50s. The bell, nozzles, and the little blue light. A lot of people remember those that the volunteer firemen could mount on their car as they were going to a fire scene from their private residence. They would turn their little blue light on and it would flash, and people know, oh, there's a volunteer fireman behind me. Okay, what you're looking at now is what they call fire markers. It predates the Gamewell system downstairs. This would be used in the time where you would call out fire, fire, and you would have one of these on your house or your stable. It's kind of like a fire insurance. The firefighters would show up with their hand-pulled reel, and if they looked and didn't see one of these markers on your building, they weren't real excited about putting your fire out. The old-timers often say they would more water your neighbor's lawn instead of putting the fire out. But if you had one of these markers on your buildings, then they would promptly put the fire out. Fortunately, we're not like that today. Whether you have fire insurance or not, we'll still put your fire out for you. What you're looking at now is the communication section of the fire service. You can see how large the radios were. They were strapped to your shoulder with a large antenna, and they progressed down to a small walkie-talkie type thing, and then even got even smaller where they just have a little square box that clipped on the side of your belt. And that, so the radios have come a long way since the invention of them. The radios would be used to communicate with other officers on the fire scene. You would have one gentleman, the fire chief, be in charge of the fire scene. He would direct through the radio to his officers where to attack, what section of the building to be at, as well as the officers could report back to the chief as to what conditions were. All right, what we're looking at here is the earliest of the fire prevention, firefighting, leather bucket. Each household was required to have 2 buckets as well as a tote that, if possible, they could go into the residence to rescue personal artifacts and that from the burning building. There would be 2 lines. There'd be a line of men and a line of women. They'd fill up the bucket. The full bucket would go up the line of men, thrown on the fire. The empty bucket would be passed down the ladies' side to be filled again. Down here you see a more modern type bucket. It's pointed. This would have been in factories and that. The 2 stories of why it is pointed is it's easier to dip in to get water. Plus another thing that commonly happened would the workers would take the bucket off the wall and turn it upside down and use it as a seat for their break or lunch times. Well, being pointed, you would take a very quick break or a very quick lunch. I don't think it'd be very comfortable sitting on. Here in the cabinet, you see the early style of fire extinguishers. They're glass. Some would be mounted on the wall in industrial places, as well as some being carried by the firemen on their apparatus. And they would be used, they would throw them at the base of the fire to help suppress the fire before the invention of the more modern fire extinguisher. Well, this concludes the tour of the Chambersburg Volunteer Firemen's Museum. We encourage you to come visit us. We're located at 441 Broad Street here in Chambersburg. We're usually open 2 Sundays a month. The hours are always the same, 10 to 2. Check our website as to what actual dates we are open. And if you're not available those dates, you can call 717-263-8660, and we could schedule a private tour, so to speak, on one of our off dates. So again, thank you for coming to visit us.